Welcome to another episode of the Booktube Vidcast.
Booktube Vidcast.
I am Caleb J. Ross, author and owner. Is that the right thing of the book burning channel?
I'd probably say creator and manager.
That is a good word. I should write that one down and use it sometime. Creator.
Or
and
even,
Donlin,
just
Mr.
like,
Donlin T, you're here as well. Where can people find you?
Nowhere at the moment because my new channel is a secret, and my current channel is being abandoned-ish. I might come back to it eventually, but
you won't. For the sake of everyone who would possibly ever watch it, it's a good thing he's not coming back to it. On to the next one.
Bite me, man.
All right. This is an article from the New York Times, and the title of the article is "Giving Mom's Book 5 Stars. Amazon May Call Your Review." It's been a pretty big deal sort of in the world of writers. I don't know how much readers have really been made aware of it, but basically the idea is that Amazon, in order to hopefully curb fake reviews, or not necessarily fake reviews, but illegitimate reviews. That makes it sound like that there's bastard children out there. But in order to curb reviews that they don't feel are honest and true, they've manipulated and manually removed or manipulated their algorithm in such a way that a lot of book reviews have been deleted. And for the most part, it seems as though these are book reviews by either people that have some kind of close relationship to the author, maybe people who are seen as direct competitors to the author. So basically any reviews left that aren't from the perspective of a completely objective reader. Now, obviously there's some problems with this. Algorithms can't handle this kind of thing, but before I throw my ideas or feelings into it, I guess, what are the ramifications, I guess, of doing it? Not necessarily if it's a good or bad thing, but just knowing that there's some reviews that are going to be removed. Is it good for the readers out there? Not thinking of the authors, but just good for readers.
I think I remember what you're talking about. I think I read a bit of the article or the list of topic, and yeah, this is the one where they're like automatically deleting spam from the reviews, right? Is that the one?
Not even necessarily spam. They can be reviews written by actual people. It's not like they're bots or anything like that. But removing reviews that the example they give is basically it's kind of it's the way that they rationalize it is that it's a the same way that competitors can leave bad reviews for restaurants online and potentially damage that restaurant's reputation and potentially pull away customers. They're seeing other authors a lot of times as competitors, and so they a lot of times don't allow people who have, and this is not across the board, but in certain instances they're not allowing certain authors to comment on books in the same genre, for example, or to leave reviews in books in the same genre. Obviously it doesn't make a lot of logical sense because writers are also readers, but that's kind of their mentality, that's a very broad blanket I'm throwing on it, but that's kind of the idea that they're getting at.
Okay. Well, I think anything that restricts free speech is a horrible mistake. So to limit people's ability to comment on books, doesn't matter who it is, what their agenda. If you make it so they can't do it, then you are stupid. Apart from that, I know that when J.K. Rowling's book got put onto the Casual Vacancy got put onto the Amazon thing, it got a lot of bad reviews. I'm not going to say rightly so, but I agree with them. And a lot of people complained about it because it's like, how dare you insult our Messiah by saying her book was bad. And yeah, it's controversial, but if you don't let people say what they think, then... But it's more about whether or not people are exploiting the fact that they can say whatever they want. So you got to come up with a system where you get rid of the people who have agendas, but you can't make them not do it. So, if I don't know, is there some kind of like karma system in place that stops people from it? Like
that's the thing, is I don't know how they're really going about it. I mean, for the most part, this is the way by default, I think Amazon has historically made newest reviews kind of appear toward the top, and then the more people like a review or something, other reviews could potentially get to the top. So there's that kind of karma there, but that can be rigged as well. I mean, you can go in there and like reviews that are positive for your book, and get other people and friends to like reviews that are positive for your book, and hopefully drown out all the negative things. So there's ways to manipulate the system no matter what. I think the idea that, you know, let's take it to the extreme and say that there's a big warehouse full of people getting paid 10 cents an hour to leave bad reviews for competitors' books. Okay, I hired a whole warehouse full of people, and I'm like, you write reviews for these competitors' books all day. That's what I want you to do. Great. Now, obviously, there's something wrong with that, because it's true, it's sort of a free market, free speech kind of thing, but the opinions aren't valid, they're not real. It's manipulating things in a way that probably isn't beneficial for anyone but that one particular author, in this case me. So there's that needs to be addressed, but that would be an extreme situation. I mean, I think that would be probably fairly easy to weed out through an algorithm. You'd know that there was a lot of reviews coming from a single IP address, for example. I mean, I'm hoping that Amazon is smart enough to know that. All these reviews are coming from single IP address. These people have only left like one review, you know, that kind of thing. So if we remove that and we get down to the more nebulous area, which I think is what Amazon possibly is trying to address with this, and that's, how do you differentiate a writer who writes romance and reads maybe 100 romance books a year, and so that romance reader is a valid authority on the romance genre? She could leave a bunch of reviews for competitors' books that aren't necessarily glowing because she doesn't think they're very good, but she is a valid authority. I mean, she does have an opinion, and she writes a lot of reviews for Amazon on a variety of different books, so the algorithm can't just, like, you know, can't pick that out, I don't think, as well. So I think what Amazon's doing here is manually going in and saying, you know what, you're a competitor, you have a competitor product, I'm going to strip out all your reviews or whatever. And people seem to be upset about it, but from the reader's perspective, maybe it's not a terrible thing. I mean, if you can trust the people pulling the levers, then it's probably not a terrible thing, but I guess you can't really trust those people. Is the problem.
It wouldn't be an issue for me with, like, who's pulling the lever. That's not the problem for me. The problem is that when you start controlling people's speech, then that's a horrible, horrible decision. And no matter which way you spin it, like, if you can control as you said, with people like sending a bunch of bots to start spamming bad, like, you know, there's ways to stop that, to even just lessen the flow, you know, that's fine. But if you're talking about whether or not someone is more I don't know, has like a higher, like, someone should have a higher opinion because they have more education on the subject, there are ways to make it better for that person, ways to make their opinion more vocal, to like, you could have it so they've got like a separate section for people who write books, have their section where it's like a special writer reviews, and then below that you have the general population reviews. That makes sense, because then you're separating it so that you can, like, if you just don't want to read people who have written books and all that, you can just ignore that section and just go to the other one. But as soon as you start saying that this person is not, you can't do that, you can't have your opinion on this book because you've written something and you're obviously subjective in the subject, so you can't do it. That's when people are going to get in an uproar, and rightly so. You're not allowed to do that. You're going to start a revolution that's going to end up blowing up in your face, and you're going to be standing around the ashes wondering what the fuck just happened. And it's essentially, the answer is because you're a chump trying to control people. So anything that would shy away from controlling and micromanaging and saying a person has more right to their opinion than another person, I'm not okay with that. But praising people who have had more input, that I'm okay with. That works for me.
That makes sense.
So that's
I like
really
the idea of separating out the one issue I would foresee, and obviously this isn't a discussion for us to find the answer to this kind of thing, but I think I could see the one issue with separating the different things out, like creating almost a filter to say, I want to filter, I want to see only reviews from readers, or I want to see reviews from people who have written books. Is what's the default option? Because I would guess most people, this is just based on my experience in sort of the algorithm industry, if you could call it that, is most people will leave settings at a default. That's just how it is. So what's the default? Is the default all of the reviews together? Is the default just two separate columns completely? That way it's kind of almost equal. Or is that even such an issue that Amazon would want to dedicate the resources and the page space? Because your real estate on the page is worth a lot of money. Is it worth Amazon to actually separate them out? Is that such a big deal that do most readers care? I don't know.
I don't think it would be that big of a deal. I definitely agree with what Proses Roses is saying right now. Similar to Rotten Tomatoes and all the industries that aggregate scores across movies and video games and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got the people who are actually critics, who have got the credentials, who have got contacts in the industry. They are entitled to have their space, to be able to have their voices heard above the general public. Same thing would go here. So as long as they can just better manage the Amazon rankings, because that's the most important thing. It's not really the way people are commenting on the book. It's the ratings that I think are the ones people are really fussed about. I'm not a fan. Is it like out of 5-star ratings? Is that how it works?
Yeah, 5 stars.
Yeah, 5 stars. That's just terrible. Can you do 5 and like 4.5 stars? Is that a thing?
I don't think so. No, with Amazon, I don't think.
Just killing me. I mean, they do the same thing on Goodreads. That's what pissed me off about Goodreads as well. Is that you can't have it out of 10. Come on, that's like a staple. You have to have it out of 10. Otherwise, it could be so general.
I think with Goodreads,
3 stars.
Goodreads
like,
is a little easier to like. I can be okay with Goodreads because Goodreads isn't like it's you can buy books through Goodreads, you can buy ebooks through Goodreads, but it's just kind of hidden. It's not really their primary function. With Amazon, it's a little different. I mean, you buy books through Amazon, so there's more investment in making the reviews work in tandem with the algorithm. And I think Amazon should be more of a 10-star system, but Goodreads, I don't care if it's 1 or 5. People aren't.
Yeah, I don't use Goodreads, so I'm not fussed.
Yeah, we've established that. You're a terrible person. Goodreads is good. The name is an accurate name.
Apparently, some authors have over 1,000 reviews in their book. Maybe it's just because they're really popular.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then good for them.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of feedback.
I think if anything, what it does is it shows people who care about this kind of thing that the reviews are a heavy consideration in the ranking algorithm. So to kind of back up, and anybody who's watching this who might not know, I mean, Amazon kind of was made famous by the not only just offering books to everyone, obviously that's what they do, but they also have this recommendation engine that was kind of ahead of its time. And a lot of other book sites do it now, but Amazon was kind of the one to really perfect the whole you might also like this kind of thing. And one of the big factors into that, you also might like this, are the reviews, and people who have left reviews for similar products, left similar ratings for similar products. That all kind of factored into there. So whether or not that's still the case, I mean, I know if you buy 2 books together, then they might recommend that other people buy those same 2 books together, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of elements that go into the algorithm. But I think what this tells us is that the reviews are important, obviously, to the recommendation engine. So they're going to go so far as to remove existing reviews, which is a pretty drastic step in this whole world of what do you call it when you curating content. So crowdsourcing. That's what I'm thinking of. So in this world of crowdsourcing, I mean, that's a pretty big deal if you're going to remove content. And so if they're removing content, that tells you that reviews are extremely important in their recommendation engine, and they don't really want to make that a problem. Same thing with YouTube. People watching obviously would be familiar. When YouTube stopped showing your tags on your videos, what that said to people in the know was that obviously the tags are extremely important in how Google or in how YouTube will recommend your video in association with other people's videos or whatever. So as soon as they removed the tags and didn't let people see other people's tags, that should have been the light to be like, oh crap, I really need to focus on my tags, because obviously that's important to YouTube. So same kind of thing, I think. If they're going to go, if Amazon's going to go so far as to remove reviews, it lets you know that reviews are extremely important. So I guess the lesson to readers out there is write, take some care into the reviews that you write, I guess.
I think it's kind of really interesting because in the writing industry right now, because you got self-publishing, there's a lot of spam. There's a lot of people making a big deal out of all these ratings because everyone has the potential to be a published author, famous author, and there are some people who just don't want that to happen. It's just doesn't work for them. I'm trying to play the psycho sound effect. There we go.
On that beautiful note, I think that's probably. I know it is a little delayed. I think that's probably good for this. There we go. We've got See, okay. My comments just refreshed. I'll cut off this episode probably at your psycho sound effect. So. That's weird. That's really weird. That looks like. Anybody remember Homestar Runner? Is he still around, Homestar Runner? I don't know if he is around. It kind of looks like.
Heard of that? What the hell is a Homestar Runner?
It's a cartoon series on the internets.
It sounded like a porno or something. It's an American porno. Homestar Runner 2.
He prefers 5. I prefer 5 I prefer 5 rather than out of 10. 5 out of 10 is considered a fail, but what do you think of with the 1 through 4? 1 through 4 would force people to be more decisive, I suppose, instead of having to be able to say, oh, I see what she means. She means, okay, what do you look at a book that is, okay, I got what you're saying. Okay, that makes sense.
Right, yeah, I see. Yeah.
I think I look at a 5. I think most people probably would look at a 5 as being a failure because it's like middle ground. But
I just don't find this interesting.
What's that? Yeah, exactly. It's mediocre. It's whatever. This is my problem with any review system, reviews things in place is that let's take a 5-star for example. You got 5 stars, and if you give a book a 5 stars, that's supposed to be like, this is an amazing book. This is great. And if you give a book a 1 star, this is a shitty book, shitty book. But then the rest of the 3 are sort of nebulous, and you could give a book a 4 stars and be like, this is a book that a lot of people might like, sure. But for some reason, it's like the top 2% of books that you read are reserved for 5 stars, and the bottom 10% are reserved for 1 star. But that means 3 stars have to take up the rest of the, whatever. Yeah, the rest of the spectrum. So I've always thought of it in like percentages. So if I give a book 5 stars, that means 80% of the people who read this book are going to like it a lot. If I give a book 4 stars, that means, what is that, 60% or something? 60% of the people who read the book will probably like it. So if I end up giving a book 1 star, that means only 20% of the people who read it, I think, are going to like it. Now, I wish that were a standard, but most people aren't going to. I don't think that's putting too much on a person's shoulders to say this is how you should rate, and you can't change the mentality of how people rate. But that's the way I would like to look at it, because then everything is equally distributed. There's an equal weight given to each star, basically. But I don't know if that's what we're going to happen.
Well, we run into another problem if you're dealing with percentages, because then if you say, like, this book was 87%, it's like, what the fuck is the 87%? What is that? Were you slightly happier than an 8.5? What is that?
Well, that's why I had whole numbers. I had 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Like, if you have 10, 10 stars, then you've got like 10%, 20%, 30, that kind of thing, which does make it a little bit different. But I think also stars should be associated with like books in a genre. So like maybe if it's 87% in your example, you could say 87% of the people who like romances would like this book.
Yeah, Bunny Kate says the right point. I would say to anyone reviewing books, just books, mind you, to use the exact system I was using in my reviews, the tier system, because that is perfect. That gives what you thought of it on an objective basis. And it's not something you can just like, you can't, you know, go to your friend and say, you know, this book was rated this, this, and this. You know, obviously you want something to, or even so, you wouldn't go to your friend and say, I get this book an 87%. They'll just look at you like, what do you do with your spare time? It's like, oh,
that's true.
I don't know if we should be friends.
Yeah,
I think
funny cases, right? Just give it a. Well, that's what, like, at the end of your reviews, and at the end of mine too. It's basically like you have a nice tier system, so you break it out, which I think works really well. It's not just giving an arbitrary star, and then on mine, I give it either a read it or don't read it. That's that simple. Like, read it or don't read it, and that keeps it simple, keeps it nice. I think for the most part, the reviews, I think people do read the reviews, so the stars I think they pay less attention to, because I might read a 1-star review, but the review might mention everything that I like about a book. Like, person's like, this book is too, you know, it's too long-winded, or there's too much description, so I'm giving it a 1. I think people base their reviews on opinions a lot of times, or their star ratings on opinions, but their opinion could be different than mine. So I'll read the review, and I know the algorithms themselves also look at the text in the reviews, and that's one thing that Goodreads does really well. I don't know if Amazon does this or not, but with a Goodreads review, you can actually embed a link to a book. So you just start typing the name of the book or whatever, and it'll kind of put either an image of it there in the review or whatever. And so then Goodreads is able to associate that book with the book you're reviewing, so they can make that connection on their end somehow.